Hello and welcome to Odds on La Liga, Matchday 34. We are running towards the end of La Liga, but still the title is to be decided 4 points away, Barcelona and Real Madrid. Although, Alvaro, it looks like no one is trusting Real Madrid after losing the Copa del Rey final and with Barcelona focusing the Champions League semi-final with Inter.
I do trust Real Madrid. I think they can put a fight until the end. The cup final could have gone either way. And Real Madrid could win at Barcelona in a week time. I have no doubt about that. And then the league will be hot. And Barcelona will have to split attention between two competitions, something that Real Madrid doesn't have to do. A big caveat for Real Madrid, though, is the amount of players out. I mean, Alaba and Rudiger are not going to be available for the remainder of the games. Rudiger because he's got one, a suspension, and two, an injury, and David Alaba because he's going to be out for another 8 weeks. I don't think that he will make it neither to the Club World Cup. But yeah, I think that the title race is still on. I really believe it. And just, I think that at the bottom of the table, we cannot overlook either, we have spoken about this briefly, the fact that Girona and Sevilla, but especially Girona, two sides that they've been playing European football in the last years, they could be relegated as well if Las Palmas or Alavés, really, they happen to get 3 or 4 points in the next 2 weeks, they are in the mix. And this is something that if Girona goes down, for example, that will be the news of the season for me. A team that qualified in Champions League spots last year.
Well, we saw it with Celta a long time ago, actually, playing Champions League and then getting relegated with Lotina on the bench. So, guys, let's analyze everything. Matchday 34. Don't forget to subscribe, of course. And now let's go on with the show. And we start on Friday with a 𝐷𝐿𝐴F Madrid derby, Rayo Vallecano, Getafe, 𝐷𝐿𝐴F, because both are in the middle of the table. It would be a huge surprise if they are playing European football next season. Both have done their homework, Alvaro. They are both very happy being safe in April. And for Rayo, it's only one win in the last 10. It's only 1 point in the last 4 games. I think Getafe is still more competitive, but it's 4 defeats in the last 5 games. So very difficult to trust these teams at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of game in which basically automatically you think that this can be a draw because, you know, you just have to check the table to see that Getafe is capable of just getting a draw in a ground like this. For example, they got a draw at Valencia, they got a draw at Athletic Bilbao ground. They drew with Rayo Vallecano in August as well. Both teams could be happy with the point. More Getafe, obviously. Rayo Vallecano, I don't think that they are setting their eyes in Europe because their run is pretty bad, and first of all, they have to overturn it. But yeah, I think that this is the kind of game in which a draw would be a strong possibility, really. And if you go to the goals market, my initial thought was, all right, this is going to be a low-scoring game because Getafe knows how to do this. Getafe has conceded 30 goals this season, which is less than 1 goal per game. And Rayo Vallecano doesn't score a lot. They have scored 35, which is 1 goal per game, or 1.05 goals per game, which is nothing. But on the other hand, the odds for a low-scoring game are pretty low. So if you go to over, you will find naturally better odds. You will increase the money you will get in case of success. So over 1.5 goals, 168. That will be for those chasing odds. Imagine a hypothetical 1-1 or a 2-1 or 2-0 for one of the sides. That would be one of the possibilities. Otherwise, I think the draw is what gives you more return for risk taken here. So draw 3.0 would be my preferred bet, but as I many times say about the Friday game, the money is to be made somewhere else. I think that these games sometimes they are a little bit unpredictable, and I would add more. I think that the Friday game this season has been rather disappointing, generally speaking, in La Liga. I don't know if low scoring, but definitely not very entertaining.
Well, the draw 3 is a good option. Saturday, Alavés, Atlético de Madrid. Alavés outside the relegation spots, 2 points more than Unión Deportiva Las Palmas. They beat Real Sociedad to be outside the bottom 3 and also got a point in Sevilla against Sevilla in the Sánchez-Pizjuán. Atlético de Madrid. The thing is, I'm not sure about the grade of motivation, especially playing away with the example of Las Palmas, where they lost a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that is for me the thing that matters most when it comes to judging this game and when it comes to trying to predict what's going to happen. Yes, Atlético de Madrid is a better side. Nobody has a doubt about that. Alavés is very far away on the table. They got a totally different fight completely going on. Alavés has 32 points less than Atlético de Madrid, and Atlético hasn't been particularly terrible in the last month because they got 10 points out of 15 with a draw, we have to say, against Las Palmas as well, but 10 points out of 15 is about right. But on the other hand, you know, the season was pretty much over as soon as they were disqualified from the Champions League and then from the Copa del Rey. Athletic de Bilbao doesn't look like being able to catch with them. On the other hand, Spanish football will have a 5th spot for the Champions League the next season, which increases the opportunities of Atlético de Madrid to qualify for the Champions League mathematically this weekend. There will be still 4 games remaining, so not a lot to play for. Only thing I will say is that Atlético de Madrid, or Simeone in particular, is trying something for the future without 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 Griezmann in the lineup, using Sorloth and Julián Álvarez up front, and it's working. Julián has scored 15 goals this season, by the way. Sorloth has been a very useful tool as well, scoring 13, and I think that maybe in the future this is the striking partnership that Atletico will have. And yeah, they are playing against Alavés. I mean, when you're playing against a team that is fighting for their life, it's difficult, and we have seen it. For example, it took Barcelona a very lucky own goal to beat Leganés, to put an example. Las Palmas beat Atlético de Madrid 2 weeks ago. So sometimes when you play against these teams, it's the attitude, the motivation, and the need and the urgency what matters. So I'm not going to back necessarily Alavés to win this game, but for example, there are a few odds that back slightly Alavés that I would like to take, and I want people to take into consideration. There is a little bit of a stingy one, if you like, which is Alavés to score over 0.5 goals in the game. So it means that if Alavés scores 1 or more, you win. That pays 160. Otherwise, and this is one that is way more risky, but I think that Alavés can start the game more strongly. Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Alavés in the first half, 345. I mean, if you lose, you suffer half a lose. The risk is kind of half a risk, but if you win, the money is really good as well. And I'm not saying that Atletico is going to lose it, but I think that Alavés is going to start in a stronger fashion.
Well, again, they are in the mix to avoid relegation. On Saturday, we have Villarreal Osasuna. Here is for Europe. We have Villarreal now 5th because they had a postponed game in the weekend and they beat Espanyol 1-0, so they are back in the Champions League spots. And Osasuna, Alvaro, they can now challenge for Europe. They beat Sevilla, Valladolid and Girona, and they are now 8th in the standings. Actually, they are in European spots.
They are in European spots, yeah. I don't know if Osasuna could be, all due respect, obviously, but maybe the best representative Spanish football could have in Europe, because I don't think that this summer the investment is going to be massive. Maybe the having to juggle between Europe and domestic affairs can be too much for Osasuna the next season, but anyway, they are fighting for that. There is a life after Arrasate. Arrasate left and Osasuna found their way. They have been competitive this season. I'm not saying no to that. Not that they score a lot, that's for sure. But, they are there in the mix. I think that eventually, probably the favorite to finish 8th will be Real Sociedad rather than Osasuna. But anyway, coming into this game, just a couple of things. Number one, Osasuna, yes, is in a good run. The last time they lost the football game was against Barcelona, and that was over a month ago, 27th of March, 3-0. But we have to say that away from home, Osasuna is not getting a lot. Osasuna has won only 2 games away from home this season, one against Valladolid, everybody beats them, and the other one against Real Sociedad, in which is considered some sort of territorial or regional derby. And Villarreal are playing at home. Villarreal are bringing more players into the mix, so more players are saying, here I am in the decisive moment of the season. Pepe, former Arsenal player, Yeremy Pino is back to his best, Alex Baena, I think that he can be ready for this game, Gerard Moreno too, but many players are just stepping up, and I think that it's a good season generally speaking for Villarreal. They just have to put the last nail on the coffin and qualify for the Champions League, and I think that in this game they can get something. So since the odds for Villarreal are not particularly convincing for me, I'm gonna increase them somehow. So I'm gonna make 2 mini ACCAs for this game, or those are my suggestions, because I think that the money can be made here. Villarreal Osasuna, it will be Villarreal to win and both teams to score in this game. Altogether 288. And there is a conservative version of this bet, which will be a draw no bet for Villarreal and over 2.5 goals in this game. It pays 2. Basically, I'm relying on Villarreal's high scoring ability. They have scored 6 more goals than Athletic de Bilbao. They have scored 6 more goals than Betis, the teams that are fighting for the same targets. So I think that Villarreal can make this, and on the other hand, they concede a lot of goals. In fact, in La Liga, they concede almost as many goals as Osasuna. So those would be my combinations.
Well, very important game is the next one in the Canary Islands, Las Palmas Valencia. Las Palmas back into the bottom 3, lost to Athletic 1-0, but won the previous 2 games at home against Atlético Madrid and away against Getafe, and now they have 2 key games at home, Álvaro, Valencia and Rayo, both winnables. Although Valencia, they are safe, 39 points, and no defeats in the last 8 games.
Yeah, well, safe, almost safe. I mean, almost, because I'm just thinking that if Alavés wins this weekend and Las Palmas beats Valencia, somehow Valencia is going to be in a little bit of trouble. The good thing for Valencia is that their faith is in their own hands, because they will be playing the following teams: Las Palmas, then Getafe, and then Alavés. So they are playing basically against 2 relegation rivals in the space of 3 weeks. And this is their opportunity really to take it, to grab it, to embrace it, and to stay in La Liga one more year. Then they finish the league against Athletic de Bilbao and Betis. So hopefully for them, they will be safe before they take on these 2 opponents who are basically fighting to be in Europe the next season. A good game here, really. A pretty interesting one. In Las Palmas, there is a debate about who has to be the goalkeeper, because yes, they have a good goalkeeper like 𝐜𝐭𝐴, but suddenly a new one has appeared, 𝗲𝗏𝗏, and he's playing so well that this is a bit of trouble for Diego Martinez as well. But yeah, we have to take into consideration, I think, Valencia's run coming into this game. It's like they play with a lot of confidence, really, and they have been unbeaten for a long time, that to start with. In the last 10 games, they got 17 points, which is already a really good tally. But if you reduce the sample size and you take only the last 5 games, they've got 11 points out of 15. This is the run of Valencia. This is where they are right now. And in between, they have beaten Real Madrid at Santiago Bernabeu, which what I mean with all this is that this is a team that is oozing confidence. That's why I'm going to back Valencia, because the results are pointing me in that direction, with an Asian handicap plus 0.25, meaning that if they draw, you win half your stake, and if you win your full stake. That pays 167.
And the last game on Saturday is Valladolid Barcelona. Flick was angry at the time of this game, because it's 9 p.m, so Barcelona will arrive quite late home, and this is a sandwich game in the middle of the tie with Inter Milan. Barcelona still fighting for the treble after beating Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. So it's been Álvaro, Copa del Rey against Real Madrid. They have Inter, Valladolid, Inter, and then again Real Madrid. So I'm sure there is going to be a lot of turnover in this game for Hansi Flick, although they are playing against an already relegated team like Valladolid. So they were lucky actually with the schedule and having to face now Valladolid.
Yeah, it's kind of convenient to play Valladolid right now. Of course, it is. It's also inconvenient to play against Athletic de Bilbao in the last game of the season, but maybe they are the champions by then, who knows. But anyway, this game is going to present a lot of rotations at Barcelona. Okay, and I think that the bench has performed quite well lately in the Spanish Cup final, especially with the likes of 𝗵𝗵𝗏 coming in, Fermín coming in the second half, Araujo just to correct the defensive frailties of Gerard Martin. I think the second team has been performing really well. And I think that we will see them here. I wouldn't be surprised if Barcelona plays at Valladolid with the likes of 𝗵𝗵𝗏 and Fermín in midfield, for example. And maybe, who knows, maybe Lewandowski can return for this game. I don't think so, and play 10-15 minutes. But there will be a few rotations, that's for sure, because the tie against Inter is going to be important. It's going to be difficult as well. And against Valladolid, what can I say that I haven't said already? Not only they have suffered a monumental amount of defeats. I mean, if you look at it from a different angle, they have played this season 33 games. Only in the 25% of them, in 8 games, they got at least a point. But in the 75% of their games, they got 0 points. This is the team we're talking about here. So Barcelona is the favorite. Them to win doesn't pay enough. Not worth a bet. So for me, this game is just about the individual market, really. Even the combinations, I think that they can be a little bit silly. Barcelona to win both halves, for example, pays around 191. And I believe that this may not happen if Barcelona comes into the game a little bit slowly, and when you play with a heavily rotated team, maybe you don't have some moves so automated, and then it takes you more time to get the first goal. So I'm gonna back Fermín to score. That will be one that I like. 2.1 if he plays. I think he's going to play this game because I think that against Real Madrid he was inches away from scoring, and I really like the way he played against Real Madrid, and I think that his goal is coming up soon. Otherwise, check the lineup and wait to see who plays. If Lewandowski plays or Rafinha plays, for example, I will back them to score in this game. But I think that Fermín is going to score. I can say this today. It's Wednesday. And him to score 2.1 will be my favorite thing here. Otherwise, this game is a pass for me, plain and simply because the odds for Barcelona are not good enough.
Of course, it's impossible to not back Barcelona playing against Valladolid, although I'm sure the mind is going to be in Milan. But of course, we don't know what is happening in the first leg, so perhaps it's almost done. Also, their qualification for the final. Let's see, well, inches away or closer away from the treble, Barcelona. Sunday, first game is Real Madrid. Celta, Real Madrid trying to arrive alive to the Clásico that we have next week in Montjuic. Of course, now they are thinking about the next season, even if they can still fight for La Liga after that disappointing defeat in the Copa del Rey final, although it was proven that there is a better way to play, perhaps with 𝗵𝗲𝗏𝗏 in the midfield, perhaps dropping Rodrigo, who has been pitiful the whole season. But as you said at the beginning, Alvaro, a lot of absentees for Real Madrid, the whole defense, Mendy out for the season, Camavinga out, Rudiger, Ceballos is doubtful, so a lot of absentees, also with Ancelotti on his way or negotiating even with the Brazilian Federation. But they have to beat Celta, and Celta right now is very dangerous. They are in great form. We also saw in the Copa del Rey at the Bernabeu how dangerous can be. They also put Barcelona in trouble recently, and they are fighting for the European spot. So this could be a trap game for Real Madrid.
I really like Celta. I think that Celta is one of these sides in La Liga that is different and is more entertaining to watch. Just to give you a very quick example of that. So right now, I would say that there are, we can say 5 teams, right? Fighting for the 7th spot. Celta, Osasuna, Mallorca, Real Sociedad, and Rayo Vallecano. I would say that those 5, they still have a genuine chance of finishing 7th in La Liga. Okay, Celta is the only one who has scored 50 goals or more from this group. And they have scored 10 more goals than Osasuna, 19 goals more than Mallorca, 18 more goals than Real Sociedad, and 15 goals more than Rayo Vallecano. Celta is a good representative for La Liga, and it's good to have a team like this, because what I have noticed this season is that many teams, they don't score a lot of goals. Defensively, some of them are good, some of them are okay, and no more than that. And having a team that has the spirit of Brighton and Hove Albion, for example, just to give you an example, having a team like that is a good thing. It's a good thing for La Liga. A team that is 7th, they've got a positive goal difference, which is not a very common thing in La Liga, I'm going to say, and a team that plays with that spirit and plenty of players from the academy. And yeah, they are playing against Real Madrid. Real Madrid, I think that is, this is a tricky game for Real Madrid. I'm not saying no. Celta were about to beat Barcelona, and Barcelona have to, needed a penalty in the last minute just to beat them. Real Madrid will play probably with a defense with Valverde, 𝗀𝗏𝗏, Asensio, and Fran Garcia. It doesn't sound too bad. I will be more worried about Lucas, but who is the creative player in midfield if Dani Ceballos is not there. Luka Modric will be playing, but maybe 90 minutes are too much for him. Personally, I think that this game is going to be won by Real Madrid, but on the other hand, it could be one of those box-to-box games with Celta really putting into trouble Real Madrid. So I'm going to go for both teams to score 162. I really like 𝗵𝗵𝗏 in the cup final, despite his ankle injury. He came in and he was very important for Real Madrid. He was basically the one who almost made Real Madrid win the cup final, in my opinion. So 𝗵𝗵𝗏 to score 170. And as I did in the game between Villarreal and Osasuna, I'm going to create a mini ACCA here, because I believe in this game. So it will be over 3 goals and 𝗵𝗵𝗏 to score. That will be my mini ACCA for this game. It's quite a juicy one, actually. 268.
Next one is Sevilla Leganés. Drama, panic in this game at the Sánchez Pizjuán, because Sevilla 37 points, 5 points away from the relegation spots. Leganés 30 points, 4 away from Alavés. So it's last call for Leganés almost. And Sevilla can still stay in Primera División with a win, but they are not winning, Álvaro. They lost in Pamplona with Caparrós on the bench. 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀 was sent off. They drew with Alavés. It's only 1 point in the last 5 games. You trusted them, I must say, and perhaps it's the time to trust them again, no? Because Leganés look like not doomed, but very difficult for them to stay in Primera División.
And somehow, I would say that Leganés hasn't been an easy opponent, generally speaking, this season, especially for the big teams. It's strange, but then they struggle a lot to win a football game. In fact, they have won only 6 out of 33. Then they drew 15, okay. They drew 12, showing that the competitiveness is there. But yeah, if you win only 6 games, it's so difficult to stay in La Liga. They got 30 points. I think that they are going to struggle because they are 5 points away from Girona. For Leganés, it's very important that Girona gets in the mix as well, to have one more team there fighting to avoid relegation. Sevilla, not a win with Caparrós yet. 2 games, 1 point out of 6 with the new manager. 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 is not available unless the Court of Arbitration of Sport lifts his 1 game ban. I don't think that will happen. And maybe this is the time for Isaac Romero. It's strange with this guy because he played in the first game of Caparrós and he didn't play a single minute in the second game of Caparrós. And we know that Caparrós likes to play academy products, but he didn't play this player. I'm going to back Sevilla here. I think that Sevilla is going to stay out of trouble this weekend, reach 40 points, and forget about this season and probably look with a bit of fear the next season, because I don't see this team just suddenly becoming better, because they don't have a good project manager, a good sporting director. In my opinion, they don't have a lot of money, and they've got an institutional war between the current president and the former president. But anyway, here I think that they will somehow sign off their stay in La Liga, and they will do it at the expense of Leganés. So Sevilla to win, 180.
Well, I also heard Suso complaining and criticizing a lot García Pimienta, not understanding why he was not playing with him. Next game is Espanyol Betis. Betis playing Conference Cup semi-finals with Fiorentina, but also they need to focus in La Liga because they have to challenge for the 5th spot and play Champions League next season. It's going to be very difficult for them, although they have Valladolid and... No, they beat already Valladolid and Girona before, but this one is very tricky, Alvaro, because it's not easy to beat Espanyol in their ground. They've been very solid in the whole season, and now they are safe. 39 points, I think, is the same as Valencia. They are safe, and it's almost impossible to fight for Europe, but kudos to them, indeed.
No, a good job. And, the way Espanyol plays and the way they have grinded out results lately points me in the direction of under 2.5 goals, which pays 170, by the way. Why do I say that? Because in the last 7 games, Espanyol has conceded 3 goals, which is quite something, I have to say. They have tightened up their defense, they have improved defensively, and that's very likely going to keep them in La Liga. Against Valencia 10 days ago, I don't remember now, but it was last week, midweek, 8-9 days ago, they showed again that they are competitive. A goal from 𝗷𝗵𝗻𝗄𝗧 was for them enough for them to get a point. And they are playing against Betis. Betis are involved in 2 competitions. We know that because they are in the Conference League. And as I always say, Betis has done a really good 2025, but maybe they have a little bit of a slow start in a game like this. It's a bit inconvenient to play a rival of the, not the quality, but definitely the competitiveness of Espanyol at this point. So this is not a given for me that Betis is going to win this game, not at all. Also, Pellegrini is going to rotate a little bit. We know that the most important thing for Betis right now is the Conference League. Maybe qualifying for the Champions League as well. All right, but I think that the Conference League, they are only 2 games away from being in a final, and I have never seen Betis play in a European final. I don't remember when was the last time that they played one, if they ever played one, and it will be a massive achievement for Pellegrini's men. So Betis is going to rotate. Espanyol is in a good run of form. They have conceded 3 goals in the last 7 games. So I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals, 167, but I prefer this one personally. Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Espanyol in the first half, 162. All that said, this game for me is not a pass, particularly. Maybe it's good for in-game betting, but I will look somewhere else to find a good value.
Tricky this game for Betis because it's not easy to visit 𝐭𝐚𝐿. Also tricky the Basque Derby for Athletic, also focused in the Europa League semi-finals against Man United. They have a 6 points gap with Betis, so they can relax and focus in the Europa League, Alvaro, where the goal is. So it's much more important, I would say, this game for Real Sociedad. Imanol announced that he won't continue next season in the club where he made history, winning the Copa del Rey, qualifying for the Champions League. And now I guess he wants to leave the club with Real Sociedad in European spots.
And with Real Sociedad winning a Basque Derby. Probably the most memorable game Real Sociedad has won in the last 38 years, or 40. 43 in particular, since they won the last league in 1982, was beating Athletic de Bilbao in the cup final. In 2021, they beat Athletic de Bilbao 1-0 with a goal from Mikel Oyarzabal, and that was the greatest moment of Imanol Alguacil as Real Sociedad manager. He's stepping down. He has done a really good job at the Real Sociedad. I think that he felt that he couldn't get more from this squad. Truth to be told, important players have left and they haven't been very well replaced, in my opinion. and they've got a short squad. To the point that, for example, I don't know who's going to play up front in this game because 𝗵𝗏𝗍 on Tuesday didn't play. And, it's going to be 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and one more player. But that one more player has been rather disappointing this season. Call him Óscarsson, if you like. And Athletic de Bilbao, yes, is going to be involved in another thing completely different. Valverde is going to rotate as much as he rotated at Santiago Bernabéu. Do you remember, Edu? He brought in 9 rotations after playing in the Europa League, and I think that this is going to be setting the tone for the game as well. So I'm going to back Real Sociedad with a draw, no bet here. I think that this game, I wouldn't say that it's more important for them. That wouldn't be fair to say, but they will be definitely more focused on this game, and they will be preparing this game a little bit more. And probably Nico Williams or Jan Sanzet, 𝗲𝗷𝗍𝗂𝗓, and many more important players will get a rest. So even though Athletic de Bilbao's rotations have worked somehow, the team quality drops a little bit naturally. So draw no bet for Real Sociedad, 172.
And the last game is on Monday. We have Girona, Mallorca, very important, for both sides actually, but especially for Girona, as you mentioned, Alvaro, they are in a big trouble right now. 3 points away from Las Palmas. They are not winning, no wins in the last 11 games. Next game is Villarreal, so it's going to be very tough, but Mallorca won't be easy as well. They are still competitive and they are close to Europe.
Yeah, definitely. Look, this game could be an under for me because Girona barely scores a goal. I mean, we talk about Girona's defensive problems, all right? But for me, the biggest difference between this Girona and last season's Girona is the amount of goals they scored. Girona has scored 40 this season. Last season, Edu, maybe you remember, how many goals did they score?
A lot. It was a really
85.
𝗏𝗵𝗍𝗀𝗏𝗏, Savinho.
85 goals.
Wow.
𝗏𝗏𝗍𝗏, Savinho, that explains the story. So this season, they are half that tally. This is what has costed Girona more than the defensive problems. This, really. I mean, they don't score goals. They don't win games. I think that the best players haven't performed well, to the point that right now I wouldn't know who the best players are, but I suspect that the likes of Miguel Gutiérrez, for example, can have a future somewhere else. I suspect that 𝗵𝐿, if he gets fit and all that, he can be a very important player in another team. But yeah, they are playing Mallorca, and Mallorca has stayed competitive this season. Mallorca has many more points than Girona, and Mallorca doesn't concede many goals. They don't score many either. So Girona and Mallorca don't score many goals, but Mallorca doesn't concede many either. So you could go for an under 3, but the value is not fantastic. Maybe I prefer a double chance for Mallorca because I think that Girona in this moment looks depressed. 𝗍𝗏𝗀 has been unable to lift the team again, to make them come back, and Mallorca has more confidence right now. So a double chance for Mallorca here, 180. I think that Girona this weekend may get into trouble.
Well, very, very interesting weeks we have ahead in La Liga. So, of course, you can still post your tips in Oddspedia and be able to participate in our tipster competitions or create your own one thanks to rivals. Alvaro, let's go with your safe bet.
Yeah, it will be Real Madrid Celta over 2.5 goals, 140.
And the ACCA?
Real Madrid Celta over 3 goals, Villarreal Osasuna over 2.5 goals, and Mbappé to score, 443. If you remove Mbappé to score from the equation, it will be around 2.7. But yeah, I think that Mbappé to score, given his form in the Spanish Cup final, it's something that I will be very happy to take.
Well, check the lineups also because he was doubtful. I think he was not training in the middle of the week. So thank you, Alvaro. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next week. We have La Liga. Bye-bye.